All right, welcome to this week's episode of Talkin Folk. This is a special remembrance episode of the late Justin Townes Earle. This is Nick, and I'm here with Joe. Joe, how are you?
I'm good, Nick. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. We are going to talk about Justin Townes Earle today. If you're listening to this podcast or a fan of this, genre of music or whatever, you probably know who he is, or definitely have heard a couple of the songs that we're going to play today. But we're going to choose to do this as a remembrance episode, a little celebration of some of the great music that he wrote, and try not to focus too much on how sad it is that he's gone. We'll touch on that kind of first before we get into the music. But after that, we're going to try and talk about how great of a songwriter he was, and unfortunately where he was probably headed in some of that too. So Joe, I think we were talking about this before, but we both probably been listening to this guy for 5-6 years now. Like, not since the beginning of his career by any means, which seemingly started in 2008 when he recorded his first real, full album. But safe to say, like, when he passed, I think we were both like, yeah, no brainer, we have to do a remembrance for him.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so you were the one who wanted to do it. So
yeah, he's one of my favorites. He's real good. Great songwriter, great storyteller, and I love the way he plays guitar too. It's got a great vibe, great genre.
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about this before. It's not like some other artists where there's a lot of analogies or things in his music. Sometimes there is, but a lot of it's really direct and either from a heartbreak story or, maybe a drug abuse story or just being down in the dumps kind of thing. Like, he just kind of hits you with it, which I think is why it's so jarring sometimes, because you can relate to it, or at least the feeling, so quickly.
Yeah. He is the only artist I've ever heard that will make you swing dance and like shake your ass in your chair while talking about the worst times anyone's ever had in their life. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's very different. So if you haven't really read the news to this point, I mean, this is obviously the somber part of the show. But he's struggled with substance abuse for a long time, a really long time, actually. And seems like, by all accounts at this point, the police did not put out an official statement, quote unquote, but that signs were pointing towards an overdose of some sort is what took him. But I know you were talking about it before. He started using drugs at like a really young age.
Yeah, super, super young. Yeah, so when he was a kid, I think he just had a really hard upbringing. His parents split. His dad, Steve Earle, another famous country singer, mm-hmm. and he moved in with his mom. I think she had a hard life too, right? So she was constantly bringing home different boyfriends and that sort of thing. And he says it in interviews straight up, he was beaten, molested, just like kind of tortured his whole life, the poor guy. And, he was hurting inside. And, he says he did heroin for the first time at 12. And it felt like someone put a warm blanket around his shoulders. And, I think he explained it as like drugs kind of took the hurt out of him, or at least just masked it. And, I think from there on, he struggled with it for a long time.
Yeah.
It's a tough life.
Yeah, and he kind of openly talks about it in interviews. I know that he tried to sober up multiple times in his life, and then unfortunately relapsed a bunch of times as well. But he talks about it really openly. I don't know if that was just from a perspective of just explaining where some of his music come from or what, or just trying to educate other people on, why it's so challenging or what other people are going through. I'm not really sure. So let's get into it. We're going to do 10 songs today, so longer than your average show. for sure on this podcast because his music's so great, and we tried to get a selection of songs that are from a bunch of different albums so that there's good representation, and not just from different albums, but some of them also sound different too. There's different styles of music, and kind of will highlight how versatile of a guitar player he is. He put together some fun arrangements, whether it's blues, whether it's more swing. There's a lot of different stuff going on. So we'll have a little bit of fun with that. So we're going to start back in 2008 on his first album called The Good Life. And I really like this song. It's called Lone Pine Hill. I like it because it's a good story. It's well written. It's about the like this middle-aged guy who is a Confederate soldier in the Civil War, and he's like lost faith in the war cause, which was not a very good cause to begin with, but he's like lost faith, doesn't want to be there anymore, wants to be home, and it's like the war is winding down, and they're losing and all this. And the reason I like that part about it, I like the way it's written, but it's also why I like the song The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, the band song. There's not a lot of songs from the Confederate, like the struggles of the Confederate soldiers side. Like these war songs and like all these things are typically like, the winning side and all that, like how struggle they were to get to victory and all that. And this is like the losing side and what it's like when they actually lost the war and all that. So I like this song for that reason. So
Super
here we go. Play a little bit of it and talk about it along the way.
I swear I see her in my dreams sometimes, held up in the middle of the night, shaking like a pistol in a young man's hand there in the pale moonlight. Standing up atop of that lonely hill, spared by the company mine, is my blue-eyed baby with her best dress on in the shadow of a lonely pine. I'll be back before the war when the company came. These hills grew wild and free. Me and baby, we'd hide in the hollers low, away from the cruel sun's heat. But then they knock down the timber and burn off the brush to get to the riches below.
So this is, I don't know, Joe, if you want to talk a little bit about the kind of how this is a really simple song, like musically.
Yeah. And it's funny, his early stuff was way more simple. Like he would start off just a lot of finger picking. But this song, he does kind of build up a little bit. You hear a little slide guitar kind of kick in. And it's really nice, and it's a nice difference from his older music or his newer music, where he starts to like really, you hear a ton of upright bass, you hear a lot of slide guitar, a lot of different instruments come in and like build out a full sound with some horns and stuff. So I like this stripped down. His first album's super stripped down. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's probably the case with a lot of artists when they're first starting too, where he probably wrote most of these songs like this.
Yeah.
Like you're a teenager or whatever, and you're writing it with just your acoustic guitar. Maybe a friend's got an electric guitar that plays with you or whatever. But like, so you're getting that product of that they're comfortable with.
The other part I thought about, like, you don't have money. Like, you have to pay, if they're not in your band, you have to pay someone to play a horn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is just guitar, fiddle, right?
Yeah.
A couple of drums or something in there.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's just the bass. Never mind.
Just a bass. It's just really simple.
Yeah.
One of the lines in this song that I really like is, so he's really depressed, and the the war is winding down, or just getting to him as the soldier, but he's basically seeing visions of that loved one, like on top of a hill. Like, am I seeing things, or is that actually her? Kind of like he's like delusional at this point, and he's capturing this feeling that, how could he possibly be capturing a feeling of a 1800s Civil War soldier as like somebody writing this in 2008?
It's incredible.
There's no connection to it at all, right?
This is a long one too. Like, he really puts together a full picture. Like, he's got a long story to tell in this one. Cool.
I don't think there's even really a chorus.
No, it's just story the whole way through.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. So that was kind of our little intro to him. But I think where we both kind of fell in love with him is off this next album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is my favorite album by him. For sure.
So we're going to go to Harlem River Blues, which is from 2010. And I don't know that it's his most successful commercial album or not. I'm not really sure, actually.
It's definitely the most popular album, or at least as far as I know.
Yeah. There's a few songs on this album that I feel like I've seen on a lot of playlists that pop up, especially since he's passed. His music's been added to a bunch of either Spotify playlists or whatever.
I feel like there's a few
songs that I keep hearing. What'd you say?
Didn't it make it onto a soundtrack?
Yeah, maybe. So anyway, the first one we're going to play is the first song on the album, which is Harlem River Blues itself. So he's originally, or I guess he would identify as a Nashville musician. He was born there, ended up dying there as well. But there was either a period of his life that he lived in New York or something, because there's a lot of New York themes on this album. So this is Harlem River Blues. We'll let it play and then talk about it.
Lord, I'm going uptown to the Harlem River to drown. Dirty water gonna cover me over, and I'm not gonna make a sound. I'm on a roll, mama, I gotta go. Gotta get there while I still can. Troubled days are behind me now, and I know they're gonna let me in. When you see me walking up the empty yard with the singing and the clapping my hands, tell my mama I love her, tell my father I tried to give my money to my baby to spend. So Lord, I'm going uptown to the Harlem River to drown. Dirty water gonna cover me over, and I'm not gonna make a sound.
He makes you dance with this one.
Yeah.
You can't even help it.
It's funny because you're right. Like he's the only person that I really know of that makes this like swing, fun music. It's a song about going up to the Harlem River and drowning yourself in it.
Yeah. Dirty water gonna cover me over, and I'm not gonna make a sound. Like, you just lay on your back and sink.
Yeah, like that juxtaposition or whatever is pretty awesome. But you were gonna say something about his time living in New York.
Oh yeah, I was Johnny Fritz.
Yeah,
Johnny
used to go by Johnny Corndog.
Yeah, he posted on Instagram, and it was actually really cool. It was a video taken from a flip phone of Justin playing in North Carolina at like some dingy, tiny bar. And he told the story of he was actually hired to drive Justin Townes Earle from New York City upstate to some festival. And he said he was hired to like drive him and look out for him. And he said from the second he got in the car, Justin was on a complete bender, just on a tear, wouldn't let him drive for a second. And the two immediately got into like a fight over music, of course. And the whole thing started out super tense, but eventually they like saw eye to eye, found some roots in music, and ended up bonding really well over that whole trip. And Johnny Fritz just kind of told the story of like, it was terrifying. It took him a week to come down from the experience of just being so on edge, going for like a 6-hour car ride with him. But yeah, he was just really sad for him. And I never knew that connection was even there. I feel like Johnny Fritz just finds his way into a little bit of everything.
He does. He finds his way into like every little Dawes. You know, he was in Middle Brother. He finds his way into these little things. No, that's cool. And yeah, he definitely lived in New York. I don't know for how long.
Not sure
or
either.
what, but so that was Harlem River Blues. That actually, I just looked it up. That is the song that put him on the map. He won an Americana Music Award for Song of the Year in 2011 for that Harlem River Blues song.
It's deserved. It's an awesome song.
So we're going to do another one from the same album, from the Harlem River Blues album, called One More Night in Brooklyn. And there's a literal meaning that we could pull out of this song, and then maybe a hidden meaning that don't necessarily know that we know the answer to, but worthwhile talking about both of them. So we'll let it play, and then we can talk about it.
Tired of laying in bed, listening to the water run. Ceiling's falling in, baby's dress is covered in dust. So I don't care what it costs, baby, dust that old thing off. Yeah, it's one more night in Brooklyn, baby, we're getting lost. I ain't taking you home, we found a little place that'll do. It'll never match the beauty of a Tennessee spring, but it's something new.
So what do you think, Joe? Which is it? Is it One More Night, or what was the other theory that you had?
It was either, because he talks about a dress, like laying in bed, listening to the water run. Baby's dress is covered in dust.
The ceiling's I don't know if he's trying to.
Yeah, I don't know if he's trying to say, "Hey," so this is right before he moved back west, and I don't know if he's trying to say like he's actually with a girl at the time and saying, "Hey, let's go out and have one more night in Brooklyn," or just stay in and get high. But basically, let's spend the night together before we go west. Or is it kind of like his struggle with drugs and addiction? He's like, one more time, let's go back to the well. Yeah. And then I won't do this again. I'm moving west after this. That's what I was thinking when I first read through it, because I was like, you could take it literally, and I did. And then sometimes the stuff goes over my head, and I'm like, wait, do you think he was really just sitting there with a girl?
So that's the interesting thing. I think it can be a combo of it too. Yeah. Maybe that's the beauty of the way he wrote the song, but there's a part of me that wonders, all right, if they're in bed for so long, listening to the water run, the ceiling's falling, like this dilapidated apartment or whatever, and her dress is covered in dust, like that means they haven't moved in days or however long. Like, are they just on some crazy ass bender? Yeah. So could still be about drugs, but could be like about that person as well. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know if he's answered it either in any interviews or anything.
What I will say about that song is I love that bass line. It gets me every time. But so many of his songs have a nice upright bass line, and that one's so smooth. I love the beginning of that song.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I think this album all around was just well done, and for a second, sophomore album, if you will. Mm-hmm. It's pretty well developed, produced, like good amount of music or different instruments and stuff. So I like it. I like it a lot. We got one more from this album, which is Slippin' and Slidin'.
Yeah, happy song.
So I think, why don't you give the intro to wait before we won't play the whole song. We'll talk about we'll transition into the next song kind of halfway through, but you want to talk about what it's about a little bit?
Yeah. Honestly,
if we know what it's about this time.
I think I know what it's about. I haven't read into this one too much because, like you were saying in the beginning, like I don't think there is too much to read into. It is literal. Slipping and sliding, feeling low. Like it's literally sliding into either like a drug-induced depression, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a ton more to it, but at the same time, he does this thing again where this one's a little more sad, but it's kind of upbeat, and there's like really awesome swells in the music that make it seem happy.
Right.
But it's the darkest song.
Yeah, like it's almost, if you didn't listen to the lyrics at all, you could put it on and get your foot tapping and have a little bit of like a little jig in your seat if you're listening to it.
This one's a bit of a sway.
Yeah, sway is probably better. Yeah. Slipping and sliding.
I should have learned better, old enough to know, slipping, sliding, feeling low. Yeah, just sit back in bed, shame for sure.
Yeah, it's a sway.
Yeah, you're right. It's a sway. You're better at dancing, so that makes sense.
I don't know. I've seen those moves.
I'm waking up feeling bad. I'm losing patience with my only friend. Why do I try my luck? I should never touch this stuff, but it shouldn't.
That line right there. Why do I try my luck? I should never touch this stuff. It's so all of his interviews, like we talked about, drug use and depression and all these things like inevitably come up. I don't know if he plants them all there or if it's just like a known thing that he, that's what people want to talk to him about. But he's very like self-aware, like, why do I even touch this stuff? Why do I let myself get this way? How do I,
Yeah, he talks about it a little bit. In an interview he did, he was actually really fired up about people and the way people are like really focused on their smartphones right now and like just not paying attention to the world around them. And what he'll say is, I write the songs I write because I'm just paying attention to the world around me. And that's what most of his songs are. And he's really fired up about people just not paying attention to the world around them and how they'll never do anything cool and creative if they don't get their head out of their ass, so to speak. He's pretty vocal about it.
Yeah, and when we get to his last album that he released, it probably is like the most political that he ever did, or a reflection of society. A lot of these early songs, are the ones that we're going to highlight anyway, are more about individual people or struggles that people have.
Yeah.
And there was a turn that he made, and who knows how far he would have gone with it, but where he was starting to say, all right, well, now I understand how to talk about individuals. Let me start trying to talk about, bigger picture stuff, which I think is kind of cool. Yeah,
it's no longer just self-portraits. He's like putting out a bunch of different portraits of different things. It's really cool.
Yeah. So the next one we're going to jump to the next album. Actually, it's technically, so Spotify has it listed as one album called Single Mothers, Absent Fathers, but Single Mothers came out in 2014 and Absent Fathers came out in 2015. And I don't know why Spotify smushed them together. I had actually only ever listened to that thing as one, full big album or deluxe album, whatever you want to call it. But they were released back-to-back years. The song that we're going to cover from this two-part, they're definitely related, right? Single Mothers, Absent Fathers, definitely.
Yeah, I never noticed it was a 2-disc set.
Yeah. Is from the Single Mothers one. And we talked about before, his mom and his dad. I'm going to assume that it's about his mom and his dad is where he at least got the inspiration from it. His mom being a single mother and his dad being an absent father in real life. And this podcast isn't really about Steve Earle at all, but should tell you that Steve Earle has been married 7 times. So Say what you want to say.
I don't mean to laugh, but you told me that before the episode, and my jaw dropped. 7 times.
Yeah, he's got something going on. So This song is called "Picture in a Drawer." Do you want to give an intro before so people know what to listen to?
Yeah, what is this one about? I really like this one a lot. We're kind of coming down a bit, right? We went through some of those.
This might be the low point of this show in terms of music subjects.
Come on, it's the one I picked. No, I love this one. What is it about? So I think in this one, it's very sad. It's a rainy day. He's out in the mountains, and I think his either girlfriend or wife or significant other has just either died or broken up with him. And he's down in a hole, and his mom calls, and she wants to talk about this. And he's like, "Mom, can we talk about something else?" And he's just, he pulls her picture out of a drawer, and he's seeing her picture, and he's just plain and simple sad. And he's saying, "Mom's just gone." And I mean, if I think of this song, I see him in tears. That's how I see this song. So I really like that.
There you go. That was a good intro. All right, "Picture in a Drawer" off Single Mothers from 2014. Here we go.
It's raining in the mountains, no, it's heading this way. It's supposed to rain tomorrow now, and all the next day. Sure, I get lonely, but a whole lot has changed. Yours is the first voice I've heard in days. But Mama, if you don't mind, can we talk about something else? Mama, please don't come over. Say nothing you can help. You'll be the first to know when I start to come around. I'm not drowning, I'm just seeing how long I can stay down.
What a line.
So good.
Mama, she's gone.
What I like about this too is he kind of takes a step back towards his original sound. It's just him finger picking. You got a little slide guitar in the back. But what I will say is I feel like over the years his voice got smoother. Like it gets smoother and smoother, and it sounds completely different than when he actually speaks. It's wild. His voice is caramel while singing, and less than that. It sounds less than that when he talks. It's crazy.
When he talks, he sounds like a broken man, or like who's got a lot of miles on him.
Maybe someone that's been smoking Camel since 12.
Yeah, true. This song is actually really super sad. When he says, "Please don't come over, saying nothing you can't help. You'll be the first to know when I start to come around. I'm not drowning, I'm just seeing how long I can stay down," is like, I don't know. You're just telling your mother, in this case, like, I'm not going to kill myself. Like, don't worry. I need some time to, like, reflect on whatever the situation is here.
I'm just getting as close as I can get.
Yeah. The picture in a drawer is a really interesting way to think about it too. Like, now she's the significant other's just a picture in a drawer, as opposed to being like, because what's the first thing that you do if you're at your desk and you had a picture of a loved one on there that you broke up with or whatever, or that broke up with you? You don't want to stare at it anymore, so you put it in a drawer, and that's what that person's like relegated to at the moment.
Yeah, I guess I botched that in the beginning. He doesn't have her picture. It's imagery.
Right. You didn't really botch it. Just
that'll happen.
It's an interesting way to phrase, like, I'm missing this person.
Yeah. Such a good storyteller.
Yeah. So like I said, that's probably the lowest moment of the show in terms of his music. In terms of
take us back?
I think. Can we take us back to...
Take us back up, Nick.
So that was from Single Mothers, Absent Fathers, I guess. I don't really know how that's all classified together. But then he comes back in 2017 with Kids in the Street, which I really like. These next two albums we're going to talk about. There's a lot of different stuff going on. I think Kids in the Street is really upbeat compared to some of his other albums. There's some fun songs. There's like, I don't know, I can't speculate on any of it, but like where he was in his drug rehabs and all these kind of things, like if he was sober, if he was, what state he was in. It's not really my place to speculate on those things. But there's some upbeat moments on this album, probably more than any other album that he released. We'll talk about one of them after this first one. Oh no, sorry, wrong. We're going to talk about this first one right now, which is called Champagne Corolla, which is like a fun song. First off, to kick off the album, kind of sets the tone, and it's basically like this. He was either talking about this with, I don't really understand. He talked about the story in an interview, and I don't really understand it, but he basically said like there's no stories about or songs about modern day shitty cars or like the car that every person has. There's always like, they got the 57 Chevy or the big block, this and that, like all these things that like all these artists romanticize about these old cars and muscle cars and stuff. And there's nothing about the Corollas, and everybody has a Corolla, a Camry, Altima. Like he gave a list, and it was kind of funny because it's pretty true. Everyone who drives a white Corolla or a white Camry drives for Uber, is what the word is out there.
The funny part about this one too is it's like the '93 Corolla that he has in his head. Yeah. It's so bad.
So it got stuck in his head. So if you've ever seen a champagne Corolla, they're like, I don't know that they still make that color car really. It was pretty popular for a while. It was like champagne colored. It just didn't age very well. So he had like a second grade or something teacher who had one, and that always stuck in his head. So that's why he chose Champagne Corolla as the color,
It's got a nice ring to
the
it
car.
too.
Yeah, that sounds good. So here we go. Here's Champagne Corolla.
Back, look like she should be driving something long and black. All I'm asking you, brother, do you know the pretty little thing riding by in a champagne Corolla?
It's kind of funny. I never really thought about that in the context of the teacher. Like, so there's an article that he wrote when this song came out. It was the first single from this Kids in the Street album, and it was about a second grade teacher. And so this whole song is basically like this hot woman or whatever shouldn't be driving a Champagne Corolla. She should be driving a, something long and black or, whatever, like a fancier car. And you're just like, is he just admitting that he had a crush on his second grade teacher? Is that part of this, or is that just coincidental?
Like second grade, are you even like into girls at that point? I don't remember second grade.
I was wondering how you were gonna say that.
My favorite part is where he says, "I don't care what no man can say. She runs all week on just one tank. Goes to show you, maybe baby's got a head on her shoulders." I found that part absolutely hilarious.
It's funny, and he gives the like the badge codes, like the trim packages on the cars. He's like LELSGEGT don't mean one damn thing to me. Like, how could he weaves that into this song, which is great.
Smooth. It's too good.
All right, here he goes with the LELS. Oh, after this
little solo
bridge.
first.
Yeah.
This one's a little it's got a little more rock in it today.
Yeah. It's good. It's a full band.
Yeah.
LELSGSGT, don't mean one damn thing to.
So there he talks about the trim packages on the Corollas. A pretty funny song. And another one that we're going to talk about is Off Kids in the Street is Trouble Is. I think we didn't really talk about this beforehand, but did we decide that it was about he doesn't have a car to get to his job?
Yeah, I mean, he says it literally.
And I guess it's funny because it's the same album as Champagne Corolla. He's got two songs on it about cars. Again, it's a person's struggle, but at the same time, it's a little bit more lighthearted than some of the other work on his previous album. So I don't know what the deal is there, whether he was just in a better place mentally or what, and he just wanted to have some fun in writing some of these songs or what. But there is actually, before we play Trouble Is, there is a song on this album called Same Old Staggerly. Do you know that song?
No, I can't remember.
You heard that on this album? It's the story about the kind of old folklore song or story where Stack shot Billy. If you ever heard, there's a Black Keys song that's called Stack Shot Billy, and it's Billy Lee who gets shot by I forget what Stack's last name was, but it's like this story of like an old Western story that comes up in folklore a bunch, and he put his own spin on it, which is called Same Old Staggerly, which is actually really interesting because one of Stack's nicknames was Staggerly. So he did like one of the furthest renditions away from what the typical standards were, which is actually kind of cool.
That's super cool. I thought you were talking about Goodfellas when Stax got shot.
No, it was not.
That's in my head one too.
So anyway, here is Trouble Is off the same album, Kids in the Street.
Got a good job waiting for me up in Chicago, yeah. And I don't start in 2 weeks, today after tomorrow. Now I'm all packed up, ready to go. Only trouble is, ain't got no wheels to roll it. Crazy next door lady always giving me the evil eye. She says she don't like me but won't tell me why. She says she feels she need to watch me day and night. Only trouble is that bitch is right.
I like that out. I had to wait for that line to come in.
It's so good.
It's funny. It's another like kind of funny song.
Yeah. It's just like he's always trouble. Is really what he's trying to say. No matter what, he'll like get one step in the right direction and it turns out he's really just still fucked.
Yeah, I like that line. My crazy next door lady always giving me the evil eye. Like he's calling his crazy next door neighbor, or his next door neighbor is crazy, but she's always giving him the evil eye. And at the end of it, he says, "That bitch is right," which is really funny. Like, yeah, she's crazy, but I'm trouble.
Yeah. That's a good line. Hey, this is crazy and I'm trouble.
There's also at the end of this album, Kids in the Street, an awesome cover of Graceland. the Paul Simon song. It's really good.
Only trouble with this same old shit inside.
And so that was his second to last album that he released in 2017, and he came back just over a year ago, really, right? When did that song come out?
March 2019.
Yeah, March 2019. So a year and a half ago, he came back with an album called The Saint of Lost Causes. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, but it's his most political album for sure. And not like he's not calling out individual politicians or anything like that. Like he said in an interview he wants it to be more about issues and not necessarily about people, so to speak, in terms of the politicians and stuff like that. And he compared it to, he thought that someone like Bruce Springsteen wasn't, as remembered enough for their political work, or, in some of his songs. So, the first song that we're going to talk about off this album, we're going to do 3 songs. They're not all political, although 2 of them are pretty much, is Frightened by the Sound. And Frightened by the Sound is basically, it's just like a reflection of the world, at least this country, is what he said, is so tense right now. And there's so many things that could possibly happen with conflicts in other countries and all this stuff. It's the most tense it's been since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it's just about how everyone kind of lives with that over their shoulders at all times, which is like eerily true.
You're just waiting for the sound of thunder.
Yeah. I mean, like, how much in your head, how much headspace do like politics and conflicts internationally, all these things take up day after day?
More than I'd like, and more than I'd like to admit.
Right? It's pretty
it's
tough.
Like every day is kind of a what's next scenario. Every time you hear something, you're like, God, this is rough.
And he wasn't even around for he was around for most of 2020 physically, but he didn't release this in 2020. So like this was pre this year going off the rails.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is called Frightened by the Sound off last year's album, The Saint of Lost Causes. So here we go.
Silence broken, thunder roll, followed by the bright light from a lightning strike. Wind is picking up to a low mark. Feel the pressure drop. Rain starting, stop, storm coming. The wind's gonna miss us now. Storm coming. Don't be frightened by the sound.
So when I listen to this song, I think there's a few things going on, but it's almost telling people like the thunder and lightning and all that, like an actual storm, when it comes, like, don't be frightened by those things. In my mind, that's what I kind of read. Like, you don't need to think that the world's ending every time you hear something, even though it feels like it's at the brink of shit hitting the fan.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it.
I thought that this was I thought that this was like a reflection of other music the first time I heard it, and I think I heard what you heard, which I thought he says Thunder Road and not Thunder Roll.
Yeah, I thought it was a Bruce Springsteen reference.
Yeah, and then he says, "Feel the pressure drop," which I thought was like a Toots and the Maytall reference, and I was like reading into it all too much, but realistically, like I was way off.
Yeah, same.
And he's talking about, yes, there's a lot of issues, like this really tense. There's you might feel like it's the calm before the storm, but don't panic, I think is the message that he's trying to get across.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, this album is kind of paying homage to like Bruce Springsteen and other great storytellers, right? Like, isn't the idea of the Saint of Lost Causes being that being the idea of like a dying breed?
Yeah.
Like that kind of does that storytelling.
Yeah, right. And unfortunately now without him around, there's like one less to do that kind of storytelling.
Sad stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Don't we have a happy song coming up soon?
No, not really. I think we got through them all.
Storm coming. Don't be frightened by the sound of it. Be frightened by the sound.
So that was Frightened by the Sound. We'll let that wind out. This album, I don't know if you were like me, but it took me a while to really get into this album completely. And the only reason that it did is there's individual songs that I really like off of it, but I didn't feel like it was constructed as an album.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly flow.
Yeah.
I didn't get into it. I'm sad that I did not get into this album sooner because I do like a lot of it so much. I hung on Harlem River Blues for like really 5 years.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, I love that album cover to cover.
Yeah.
So it made it every time you have that sort of thing with a band where you love an album cover to cover, every new album from there, you can't get close to liking it as much. It's impossible.
It's really hard.
So that's happened to me a little bit, but there are some songs that I really love on this album.
Yeah, I think that there was just moments where I didn't connect with individual songs, and then there are moments where I don't know if it was because the earlier work was so relatable because it was individual stories and just like these little motifs of, a moment in time, like being in that bedroom, one more night in Brooklyn, that kind of thing. It was all like really relatable, and you can have this picture in your head, and the music was really good to go along with it. And I think Saint of Lost Causes, the music is all actually like really top notch. Like he's polished, and the whole band that he's playing with is polished at this point. But I think that some of it was too big for me, maybe. Like there was like the ideas were too big or obscure, I don't know. So
yeah,
there's a few that stuck out, and I think we're pretty much talking about the ones that stuck out to us for the most part here. There's a couple more, but probably 4 or 5 songs as opposed to Harlem River Blues, which I think I liked all 10 or 12 tracks or whatever it is. But anyway, next one is an interesting one. It's still a political statement, but not like politics in the sense of we're about to go to war or anything like that. It's about Flint, Michigan. And everybody knows Flint, Michigan in recent times as the city that had the water crisis and like super poverty stricken city, all these issues with trying to get clean water for its residents. If you remember a few years ago, there was like those videos of people like opening their taps and like the water was like disgusting.
Going on fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could light their tap. Yeah, they could light their freaking running water on fire. It's horrifying.
Yeah. So there was like those kind of issues, but really what's not talked about too much is why or where that all started. Like Flint was a bustling city at one point in the 60s, I guess. And or maybe until a little later than that, actually, until the 80s. So what happened was that Roger, what the heck's his actual last name? Roger Smith.
Smith, yep.
In 1986, he was the CEO of General Motors, decided that wanted to cut costs, even though they were like making like billions of dollars a year, wanted to cut costs. So they cut the Flint City factory, plant, whatever, car assembly factory, and moved it to Mexico. And like 50,000 people in the city lost their jobs like overnight. So what this song is a reflection of, it's like, yeah, it's a reflection of Flint being a really tough and like you're going to bounce back kind of place, but also a little bit of a touch of like, this is why they are where they are. And this is what caused it, which was greedy capitalism, or, whatever you want to call it. So, anyway,
it's a cool concept.
Yeah. That's why I like this song. On top of that, it's a really fun musical arrangement as well. So Flint City, Shake It.
The thing that's really cool about this musical arrangement, I don't know if he was doing this on purpose, but if you've ever heard the song One Piece at a Time by Johnny Cash, you have the same bass line, doom 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 doom, and that song's about stealing a car one piece at a time from working at a car factory. And I just wonder, like, is he doing that same little, is he making the arrangement so similar just to kind of throw that in there, like it's the car workers or the automakers, the guy in the factory, is this little jab back,
getting back.
That's
interesting. I don't actually know that song. I have to go listen to it. He's a little bit of like, I think he's a little bit of a musical historian.
Definitely.
Because he covers things in particular ways. He covered a Paul Simon song. He's got that Stagger Lee song. So he's definitely knows his stuff.
He talks about it a lot too in interviews. Like who did he talk about? He was talking about Kurt Cobain. He was like, Kurt Cobain's not a great musician because he grew up and first heard Thin Lizzy. He's a great musician because he went all the way back and listened to Leadbelly and like got deep into the blues. And that's why Kurt Cobain's a great musician. And he goes on talking about all the great musicians of the past and how you have to go all the way in and like really learn about each one to become a great songwriter and storyteller. So it's
true.
He loved going all the way in.
So right there, he just talked about, we built Buick cars, GM trucks, Chevy engines, AC, spark plugs, built planes for the war back in 41, every piece straight from the ground on up. But then the trouble came in 1986 with this son of a bitch named Roger Smith. Cut our throat with a stroke of a pen, been knocked down, but we're gonna get up again. And it's like a reflection of, like a very accurate or factual statement of what happened, but also painting, somebody in a position of power can like totally cut the legs out from under the everyday worker, factory worker or blue collar, type worker, without even really thinking twice about it.
It's super messed up.
Yeah.
But even still, he hides that concept behind this, that little guitar bass line, the one, like the little blues bass line.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's like a little, what's his name? Not Johnny B. Kidd guy.
Chuck Berry.
Like a little Chuck Berry lick. And he hides like either something incredibly political or sad behind that.
Yep, exactly. I just like how he says that they're not going to give up and they're the kind to get back up, or whatever he says throughout the song. It's just like a sign of strength more than anything else.
Yeah,
it's well done, and it isn't a, like he said he was like, he doesn't want to call out individual politicians or whatever. He does call out Roger Smith in the song directly, but the bigger thing in this song is talking about how, so that people understand why Flint is in the situation that it's in, and it isn't just because it's a poor rundown city. Like there's a reason for that to have happened and whatnot. So it's interesting that he took that on too, because I don't know what connection to Michigan that he has.
I don't know that he had. Oh, I'm not sure that he has any. He talked about living in a couple different places, but I've never heard of him living in Michigan. But I guess I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, I guess not. There is a documentary called Roger and Me, which what the heck's the guy's name? It's not Roger Moore. Roger Moore is the James Bond actor who was James Bond a couple times.
I got nothing for you over here, Nick.
Roger and Me was
what the hell?
Michael
name?
Moore. Remember Michael Moore,
yeah.
the documentary film guy. Roger and Me was his first film, and so Michael Moore is from Flint, Michigan, and
cool.
tells the story about Roger Smith, who cut down the factory and all that kind of stuff. But the whole movie is about him trying to just get coffee or a beer with Roger Smith to like kind of have him talk through his decision to do so and whatnot. And it's a documentary, so he like interviews people and stuff. But people say outside of Bowling for Columbine, like that's like his absolute best work. I've never seen it, but that's where I kind of figured out what the story was about.
Put it on the list, Nick. That's next.
Yeah,
that's my next.
So,
documentary.
All right, we got one last song. I'll let you end it with. You brought another really upbeat, uplifting song.
This is a good one.
Good it is a really good song.
You have to pronounce the name. I literally can't read.
I think it's on the same album, The Saint of Lost Causes. Ahí está mi niña.
What does that mean? You speak Spanish. What does that mean?
I'm pretty sure it means I am here, my girl.
That makes sense.
I'm like 99% certain that that's what it means.
We could probably just Google that, but God help us.
So what you want to talk about the story, because I think this is a song that you probably need to know the story before you go in listening to it.
Yeah, I actually didn't know what this was about for a little. I listened to an interview by Justin, and he was talking about a lot of different. He was actually talking about Bruce Springsteen and Thunder Road, and saying how he loves putting together songs that really paint like an awesome picture. He was talking about, the screen door slams, Mary's Dress waves, and he's like, you've got to write a song that tells a story and like really paints a picture in someone's head. So when he wrote this one was after a man getting out of prison. So he's been in prison for a very long time. He had a daughter before he went in, and so this one's kind of like a running mental dialogue of, when I get out, here are the things I'm going to say to my daughter. And it's just, it's really cool. It also incredibly sad, but he's just talking about, here are the things that I would say to you. And, listen to it. It's really cool.
No, it's great. And he does reference Clinton. So I just got off the bus from Clinton, which is an upstate New York penitentiary. So like, he definitely thought about this long and hard and didn't just write, some random, I just got out of jail song. Like he tried to put like individual little snippets in there, which are cool. So, ahí está mi niña. Here we go. I just wanted to say that again. Here we go.
You're good. That was good.
As we rode, use the cypress so right. I'm just off the bus from Clinton, they put me out on the bow. I'm on my way home to see Mama now. Fancy meeting you along the way. Now don't go, ain't you got a minute for your old man? Let me buy you something to eat.
I had the pronouns backwards.
Just a cup of coffee from the bodega.
It's better than I would have done, Nick.
It's there is my girl. This is the
Good.
same sentiment, but just backwards.
Is there so much I want to say to you? So much.
Yeah. And I'm gonna guess he either knew this person or knew of this person, because he just talks a lot about Oh, there was a really famous quote. He was in a, he was like eating breakfast one day, and somebody next to him said something just super terrible to their wife, like, you know, you're lucky I'm leaving, or something like that. And then he just takes that bit and turns it into a song. So he's really good at turning around these like little nuggets that he sees or hears and turning them into a song. So my guess is he knew this young man, either early in life or late in life or something like that, knew his story.
And
cool.
Throughout the story, which is what makes it so sad, is it's kind of clear that he's never really known this girl.
Yeah.
So like, this person has been in jail or prison the majority, if not all, of this little girl's life.
Yeah, so it talks about, or he talked about this being basically a kid that gets locked up on mandatory minimums. Back when like he was a kid. What is that, like 1980s, when they started doing mandatory minimums, like 3 strikes you're out rules, and you'd go away for like 20 years, something stupid.
Yeah.
And you have a kid in your teens, and you're gone for 15, 20 years, and you get out, and then you finally see them all grown up.
Yeah, it's
right?
wild.
I know you look just like your mother, popping in that line. It's crazy.
When you look at me that way.
It's like, it's super sad because there's that, and then clearly if he's like fantasizing this conversation happening, or it did happen or whatever, it doesn't really matter. But the way that he wrote it is like, she doesn't want to see him at first when he wants to sit down with her and talk to her, and like, imagine coming out of jail and then being like, oh, can't wait to see my family, and then your daughter doesn't want to see you, like.
Yeah. They say, do you have, you got a minute for your old man? Later on, he's like, so how about that cup of coffee? It's all centered
around him. Well, the interesting thing is that he does throw in some stuff that's like, it is about him and how hard it is for him, to not have the girl want to see him. But she also is equally in her right, pissed off that he wasn't there her whole life. So there's like that pulling in the song back and forth, which is valid in both directions. It's a really hard song to write and have that come across, so clearly, I'm sure.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Like you can see this man talking to his daughter and like feel the whole thing. And I'm sad he's gone, because I would love to hear more music like this. There's not much of it left anymore.
Yeah. No, it's also really hard for us to get down to 10 songs. So I'll just say that was like a little bit of a challenge. And in the end, our goal was actually get it to 8 songs, and we couldn't. So
I would have kept it at 14.
Yeah. So we got down to 10 songs. That was the best that we could do. This isn't really, if you're listening to this show, you probably know who Justin Townes Earle is. If not, I hope you just found out about somebody's music that was really awesome, and can go back and listen to his whole library. We're definitely gonna miss him, and kind of be sad about the fact that we didn't get to see where his career kind of went next. Like, every album had a unique kind of flavor to it, which you can't say that about a lot of artists. Sometimes they stay in their little zone or whatever and don't change much. He was all over the place. So it would have been cool to see where he went next, but happy for what we did get.
Yeah, this was fun, Nick.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show, Joe. We'll see you soon. Hopefully it won't be something, maybe next time we'll bring some more upbeat.
I think we have to. This was a sad one. This was a sad one.
No, but we had to do it in remembrance of Justin Townes Earle. So thanks for tuning in. Please go check out the rest of his work, some of those albums that we played. Start at Harlem River Blues for Joe's sake. Listen to the whole thing all the way through.
So good.
It is so good. So, all right. Catch you on the next one. See you later, Joe.
All right. See you, man.